The galaxy was old, older than the fragile civilizations that now fought for dominance among the stars. In the cold black void, empires rose and fell like waves crashing against the eternal shores of time. The Theran Dominion, one of the most powerful species in the Orion Arm, prided itself on its ancient heritage, spanning over 200,000 cycles. They had mapped thousands of worlds, encountered dozens of sentient species, and assimilated or eradicated those that dared resist. Yet there was always one anomaly: the Silent System. A forgotten corner of the spiral arm, an isolated system with a dying yellow star and a planet covered in scars. Earth. It was a dead world, its cities turned to dust, its atmosphere heavy with the residue of war. There were no signals, no life, nothing but the echoes of a species that had vanished long ago. Or so the galaxy believed. The investigation begins. High Admiral Threxus Vok of the Theran Dominion stood on the bridge of the warship Unyielding Truth. His 4 crimson eyes narrowed at the holographic display before him. A routine scouting mission had detected something unusual. Explain, he demanded, his voice a low growl. The AI projection, a shimmering orb of data streams, pulsed. High Admiral, the automated sensors placed in the Silent System have been disrupted. Multiple high-energy spikes detected. Not natural phenomena. Impossible. Threxus frowned. The last scouting records showed the planet was barren. If scavengers have set up there, we should... Not scavengers, High Admiral, the AI interrupted. The energy signatures match pre-extinction human technology. For the first time in his long, brutal career, Threxus felt something unfamiliar coil in his gut, something almost like dread. Humans. The ancient myth. The species that had once sent their warships screaming across the stars, leaving devastation in their wake. The Dominion's oldest records spoke of a civilization that burned brighter than any other, before vanishing. Some claimed they had destroyed themselves, others whispered of something far worse. Threxus had dismissed those tales. The Dominion ruled the stars now. What remained of humanity were artifacts buried in forgotten ruins. Dead relics of a race that had peaked too soon. Yet here was data suggesting otherwise. His clawed fingers tapped against his console. Deploy a research team. I want full scans. If there's even a remnant of human technology active, I want it secured before anyone else knows. He did not say the other truth lingering in his mind. If humanity was not as dead as they believed, the galaxy was in far greater danger than anyone could comprehend. Echoes in the ashes. 3 Dominion vessels slipped into the Earth system, their hulls coated in adaptive camouflage to avoid detection. The lead ship, Eclipse's Wrath, carried an elite team of scientists and enforcers, trained for hostile encounters. As the ships approached Earth, they were greeted with a sight that defied their expectations. The planet was no longer a silent graveyard. Lights flickered in the skeletal remains of ancient megacities. Deep beneath the surface, strange power fluctuations rippled through abandoned military complexes. The Dominion's long-range scanner struggled to penetrate the thick, metallic shielding encasing certain underground structures. Dr. Valek, the lead xenoscientist, hunched over her display, mandibles clicking anxiously. High Admiral, I am detecting movement. No biological life forms, but something is active down there. Threxus narrowed his eyes. Deploy observation drones. The drones descended, small and undetectable, gliding through the atmosphere. What they captured sent shivers through every Dominion officer who saw it. Automated war machines. Towering constructs of metal and forgotten technology, moving with eerie precision. Their forms resembled humanoid soldiers, but their eyes glowed with an intelligence that was neither artificial nor biological. They were remnants of something more. Impossible, Valek whispered. Humanity is extinct. There should be nothing left to maintain these machines. Unless, Threxus murmured, they never truly died. The first mistake. Arrogance had always been the downfall of the great empires. The Theran Dominion was no exception. Convinced that these remnants were nothing more than malfunctioning war machines, Threxus ordered a small ground team to retrieve samples. A cautious but necessary move, or so he believed. They landed near the ruins of what had once been called Moscow, a city reduced to skeletal remains and ashen streets. The Dominion enforcers, clad in high-tech exosuits, moved swiftly through the desolation, their weapons primed. The first hour was uneventful. Then the whispers began. It wasn't over their comms, nor through any detectable transmission. It was something deeper. A presence. One of the soldiers, a veteran named Scar, suddenly stiffened. His breathing quickened, his pupils dilating. I hear them, he gasped. Hear what? Valak demanded. Scar turned and the others recoiled in horror. His eyes had turned pitch black as if the void itself had seeped into his skull. His voice was no longer his own. You were warned. The graves of gods are not meant to be disturbed. A pulse of energy erupted from the ruins. Dominion technology, advanced beyond most species' comprehension, failed in an instant. Their suits powered down, their weapons jammed. Panic spread like wildfire. And from the shadows the machines turned their heads toward them, aware. A single chilling realization sank into Threxus's mind as he watched the footage from orbit. Humanity had not perished. They had evolved beyond flesh, beyond mortality itself. They had become something more, something that should have never been forgotten. Something the galaxy was never meant to disturb. The last transmission from the ground team was a single, agonized scream before silence swallowed them whole. The mistake had been made. And now the true elder species was awake. The silence that followed the last transmission from the ground team was heavier than the vacuum of space itself. High Admiral Threxus Vox stood motionless on the bridge of the unyielding truth, staring at the lifeless data feeds. The expeditionary team had been cut off, their signals swallowed in an instant. The war machines in the ruins had turned. But more than that, something deeper had stirred. Something ancient. Something human. His second-in-command, Commander Raylis, a hardened veteran of over 2 centuries, shifted uneasily beside him. Orders, High Admiral? Threxus didn't answer immediately. His mind raced through the possibilities. The Dominion was no stranger to conflict, to planetary occupations, to exterminations when necessary. And yet, a chill ran through him, an unfamiliar sensation. The greatest powers in the galaxy had dismissed humanity as a dead race, another civilization that had burned out before it could reach true dominance. But what if that was never the truth? What if humanity had never died? What if they had only been waiting? Recall the drones, he ordered finally, his voice steady despite the storm brewing in his gut. I want real-time analysis of the anomaly. No further ground teams until we understand what we're dealing with. Raylis nodded, issuing the command. But the drones never came back. They vanished. Not shot down. Not disabled. One moment they were transmitting, capturing visuals of the ancient war machine scanning the ruins, and the next they were gone. No debris. No interference. Just gone. And then the ship's lights flickered. A low hum vibrated through the unyielding truth, not a weapon impact, not a system failure. It was deeper than that. A presence. The ship's AI, a hyper-advanced construct beyond the understanding of most species, suddenly crackled with static. Its voice, normally smooth and emotionless, wavered. Intrusion detected. Non-physical. Non-biological. Pattern matches. The ship's systems failed for exactly 3.72 seconds. When they came back online, the bridge crew was deathly silent. Every screen, every panel displayed a single message. A message written in an ancient human script, translated instantly by the Dominion's linguistic algorithms. You were warned. The fear of the unknown. Panic was not an emotion the Theran Dominion encouraged among its ranks, but unease spread through the crew like a virus. The silent system was supposed to be dead. A graveyard. Yet now, an intelligence had made itself known, slipping through the Dominion's most advanced defenses as if they were nothing. Threxus clenched his mandibles. This was no malfunction. No mere pre-war AI corrupted by time. This was something worse. Attempt to establish communication, he ordered. The Dominion's hailing frequencies spanned across multiple spectrums, designed to translate and interact with even the most primitive or exotic life forms. Signals were sent in standard Dominion binary, in quantum pulses, in ancient human waveforms. There was no reply. Only silence. And then, just as Threxus considered retreating, a single response came through. A voice. Not synthetic. Not alien. It was human. Why have you returned? The voice was neither hostile nor welcoming. It carried no anger, no desperation, just the weight of something vast, something old. Threxus chose his words carefully. We are explorers. Seekers of knowledge. We believed humanity was extinct. We. Extinct? The voice interrupted, a hint of something almost amused beneath its neutrality. Pause. And then, without warning, the ship's scanners reactivated. But what they revealed sent a fresh wave of horror through the Dominion crew. Beneath the surface of Earth, the ruins were no longer still. The war machines had not been remnants of a lost civilization. They had been guardians. Sentinels watching over something far more dangerous. And they had woken it up. ##### The sleeper stirs. Far below the planet's surface, deep beneath the forgotten cities, something vast was shifting. Dominion scanners, now seemingly allowed to function, picked up massive heat spikes. Seismic activity spread across the continents. Energy readings spiked to levels unseen even in the Dominion's most powerful reactors. Valek, still shaken from the loss of her ground team, whispered, "This isn't just reactivated technology. This is something else." The screens flickered again. More messages appeared, text crawling across their displays in hundreds of languages, some known, some long dead. "You tampered with the locks. You unearthed what was buried. You should not have come." And then the first ship died. Eclipse's Wrath, the vessel closest to the planet's orbit, was severed from the fleet in an instant. There was no impact, no visible attack. 1 second it was there, bristling with Dominion weapons and shielding. The next it was gone. Not destroyed. Not disabled. Simply gone. The horror that spread through the crew was not one of battle, not the fear of a stronger enemy. This was something far worse. An understanding. Threxus turned toward his second-in-command. "Recall all ships. Now." But it was already too late. #### The truth of the elder species. In their arrogance, the galactic powers had assumed themselves superior. They had believed that time had made them the apex civilizations of the cosmos, that the past was nothing more than dust and memory. But they had misunderstood. Humanity had not been destroyed. Humanity had not been conquered. They had ascended. The sleeper beneath the ruins, whatever it was, whatever they had become, was beyond anything the Dominion had ever encountered. They had not expanded their empire because they had no need. They had not sent ships into the void because the void was already theirs. And now the mistake had been made. The last transmission from the unyielding truth was received by a Dominion outpost before the fleet was lost entirely. A single message. A single warning. The elder species has returned. The last echoes of the Dominion fleet vanished into silence. One by one, the ships of High Admiral Threxus Vox Task Force simply ceased to exist. No debris, no distress calls, just a cold, methodical erasure as if they had never been there at all. The Dominion outpost that received the final transmission reacted with immediate dread. Protocol dictated that any catastrophic event involving an unknown force be reported to the High Council. Within hours, the message had reached the highest echelons of Dominion leadership. For the first time in over 200,000 cycles, the Dominion felt fear. #### The Council's folly. Then Theron High Council convened in the Spire of Dominion, a massive construct orbiting their homeworld. The chamber, carved from obsidian-like alloy, was silent as the recorded transmission played. The elder species has returned. A hushed stillness filled the air, the weight of those words pressing down on the gathered warlords, scientists, and politicians. High Warlord Zalthun, a being of immense stature and battle-hardened experience, broke the silence. "We have conquered empires. We have annihilated threats before they could rise. Whatever this entity is, we will bring our full might against it." Several council members nodded in agreement. Their species had faced countless challengers, each believing themselves invincible, only to be crushed beneath the Dominion's relentless war machine. But others were not so sure. "The silent system was meant to be left undisturbed," said Scholar Euryales, her deep violet eyes filled with unease. "Our ancestors documented human technology, their devastating wars, and their rapid advancements. But we have no records of their final fate. That alone should give us pause." Another counselor scoffed. "Humans were primitive compared to what we possess now. Their weapons, their fleets, their armies, all inferior. We have nothing to fear from the remnants of a dead species." Scholar Euryales turned her gaze to the projected data. "Do you truly believe that? The fleet did not suffer losses. They did not engage in battle. They were erased." A heavy silence followed. Zalthun slammed his clawed hand against the stone table. "Then we will strike first. A full Dominion armada. We will purge the silent system and whatever abomination lurks there." And so the decision was made. #### The Armada's descent. The Dominion did not wage war in small numbers. Their response was overwhelming, an entire battle group of 400 warships, led by the flagship Eternal Supremacy. The fleet carried planet-cracking weapons, world eaters capable of rendering a celestial body into molten slag. Their orders were simple: eliminate the threat. They arrived at the edges of the Sol system in perfect formation, weapons primed. The once-forgotten world of Earth lay before them, silent, cold, and indifferent. Yet something was wrong. Admiral Corys, now leading the fleet, observed the readings carefully. Scanners show no defenses, no fleets, no planetary shield. We are detecting massive energy readings from beneath the surface, but nothing that resembles a functioning civilization. Then we begin orbital bombardment, one of his officers suggested. Corys hesitated. Something gnawed at the edges of his mind. Why was there no response? Why had the First Fleet been erased without even a recorded struggle? If this was an ancient superpower, why did they not show their strength? Because they don't need to. A chilling thought, one he pushed aside. Begin fire sequence, he ordered. The first barrage was unleashed. Dominion-class weapons capable of devastating entire planets streaked toward Earth. The bombardment slammed into the surface, carving craters into the ruined cities, vaporizing kilometers of land. The force of destruction was absolute. For several minutes nothing happened. And then the retaliation began. Not from the surface. From the void itself. ###the return of the lost. Space trembled. At first, the Dominion fleet thought it was a natural phenomenon, some gravitational disturbance caused by their attack. But then the fabric of reality itself seemed to shudder. And they appeared. Not through hyperspace, not through warp gates or jump drives. They simply materialized. Vast, obsidian vessels unlike anything recorded in Dominion history. Their designs were eerily smooth, almost organic, yet impossibly advanced. They bore no visible weaponry, no heat signatures, no propulsion trails. But they were undeniably human. And they were awake. The Dominion fleet barely had time to react before their systems collapsed. Ships flickered, their energy readings dropping to zero. Fire control systems went dead. Engines ceased function. Every Dominion warship, no matter its power, was rendered helpless in the span of seconds. Admiral Corys slammed his fist against his console. What is happening? And then the voices returned. No transmissions. No signals. The words came directly into their minds. We left the stars because we chose to. You assumed our silence was death. You were wrong. One by one the Dominion warships imploded, not from any visible attack but from within. Crews screamed as they were erased, their bodies unraveling at the atomic level. The Eternal Supremacy, the mightiest ship of the Dominion, vanished in an instant. Corys, in his final moments, understood the truth. Humanity had transcended war, transcended technology as the galaxy knew it. They had become something else, something beyond flesh and steel. And they had never been gone. They had simply been waiting. ###, the end of Dominion. When the fleet failed to return, panic gripped the Theran Dominion. The High Council attempted to prepare defenses, but there was nothing to defend against. The humans did not come in an armada. They did not demand surrender. They did not need to. The Theran homeworld simply ceased. One moment it was there, a thriving metropolis of billions. The next it was empty. A lifeless rock, void of civilization, void of history, as if the Theran had never existed at all. The message that followed was simple, broadcast to every surviving species across the stars. This was your only warning. The galaxy had long believed itself to be the pinnacle of evolution, the rulers of the cosmos. Now they understood the truth. Humanity was the first. Humanity was the last. And humanity had never left. The galaxy had never known true silence. Even in the darkest regions of space, signals bounced between civilizations, trade routes remained active and wars, small or large, raged in the background. But after the fall of the Theran Dominion, a silence deeper than the void itself took hold. The message from the lost human species had spread across the known star systems, reaching every empire, every colony, every outpost. There were no negotiations, no further actions. Humanity had spoken and the galaxy listened. No one dared to respond. For the first time in countless millennia, the great empires, the self-proclaimed rulers of the stars, felt the cold weight of insignificance. They were children playing with fire, unaware that the gods they had dismissed as myths had never truly been gone. And now they were awake. ###, the fracturing of the galactic order. The collapse of the Theran Dominion was absolute. What remained of its vassal states fell into disarray, their rulers unwilling to take the mantle of leadership for fear of drawing human attention. Without centralized governance, planetary revolts erupted overnight. Some sought independence, others fell into lawlessness, but all shared the same underlying fear. Would they be next? Neighboring empires withdrew their fleets from contested territories, abandoning centuries-old conflicts without a second thought. Even the most war-hungry species, those who had once reveled in conquest, suddenly found their ambitions extinguished. What was the point of war, of expansion, when a force beyond comprehension watched from the shadows? The galactic economy, reliant on interstellar cooperation and conflict alike, ground to a halt. Trade lanes were abandoned. Diplomatic summits were cancelled. Even criminal syndicates, which had thrived in times of turmoil, fell silent. The weight of uncertainty crushed everyone. Would the humans strike again? Or was their warning truly the end of it? ####The pilgrimage to Sol. A growing movement began to spread among the surviving civilizations. Some saw the return of humanity as divine intervention, a cosmic reckoning long overdue. Others believed there was still a chance, however slim, to seek understanding. And so, a pilgrimage was formed. Hundreds of ships, from dozens of species, made the journey toward the silent system. Not as conquerors. Not as invaders. But as supplicants. They entered the Sol system cautiously, their weapons powered down, their transmissions broadcasting only one message. We seek understanding. No response came. Earth remained as it was, silent, lifeless on the surface, yet humming with power beneath. The ruins of human civilization stood untouched, monuments to a species that had long since outgrown its own world. The fleets remained in orbit, waiting. Days turned to weeks. Some captains lost their nerve and left, returning home with empty answers. Others remained, desperate for a sign, for anything that might explain what humanity had become. Then, after 43 cycles of silence, the first, and only, message arrived. You were given a warning. Do not seek us again. The fleet captains had no choice but to accept the truth. Humanity did not care for diplomacy. Humanity did not seek allies. Humanity did not wish to be found. ###The turning of the ages. The civilizations of the galaxy returned home forever changed. The old ways, the wars, the conquests, the endless pursuit of dominion, became relics of a past best left forgotten. Rulers who once sought expansion now turned inward, focused instead on survival and understanding. New religions rose, devoted to the silent watchers among the stars. Some worshipped them as gods, others feared them as demons, but all agreed on one thing: humanity was not to be disturbed. Entire sectors of space were abandoned, left untouched for fear of unknowingly trespassing into something that was no longer meant for mortals. The silent system was forever marked as forbidden, a graveyard not of the past, but of a future that could have been. And yet, deep in the hearts of every species, one final, chilling thought remained unspoken. What if humanity was still watching? Not from Earth. Not from ships. Not from worlds known to the younger species. But from somewhere beyond time, beyond space, beyond even the understanding of what it meant to exist. What if their warning had not been a threat, but a kindness? A mercy? What if the true fate of those who ignored it was never known, because those who had dared to seek humanity had simply ceased to be? No one was willing to find out. And so, the galaxy carried on. Not in defiance. Not in arrogance. But in the quiet, trembling understanding that they were not alone. They had never been alone. And they never would be again. The end.